Hello there, I'm assuming that you're new to the channel, but even if not, welcome to my full guide on ASol. Now, you might be asking, who are you and why should I watch this guide? Well, I got top 1 ASol in Season 9, my highest ranks are Grandmaster or Immortal in Legendary Queue, so if you're below that, or if you just started playing this champion, you're probably gonna learn something new today. Now before I begin, I want to say that I'm not claiming to be the best ASol ever. In fact, I only played him for one season, and there are people who one-tricked him since the beginning, and they can definitely tell you more about the champion than I can. So take everything in this video with a grain of salt, and let's begin. Now my build is very standard, I would even say basic one, which is Rod of Ages into Infinity Orb into Rabadons. Not going for Luden's Echo, because ASol is kinda like a battle mage, you need to stay close to the enemy, so the HP that Rod of Ages gives you is gonna be very helpful. Infinity Orb second item gives you more damage than Rabadon's, so that's why these two items are in that order. Now after that it becomes situational, the last two items can be anything basically. You'll probably need at least one item with ability haste, because everything that you built earlier doesn't give you any of that. Riftmaker is a good one, I was also building Awakened Soul Stealer for a long time, I think it's okay. Cosmic Drive is a possibility, but I wouldn't recommend it. Now, if the enemy has a lot of magic resist, you build Void Staff. If they are full AD, Crystalline Reflector. Full AP, Banshee's Veil. You can also go for Banshees even if the enemies are not full AP. That is if you really need a spell shield against, let's say, Blitzcrank, Pike, Annie. You can also build Leander's Torment, but only if you will get a good value out of it, because this item by itself is just not that great, so build it only if the enemies are very beefy, if they have a lot of HP. If you need anti-heal, just get the Green Orb after your Rod of Ages, and then finish the Green Book as your last item. Stat-wise, it's not that good, and Grievous Wounds from the Green Orb will be absolutely enough. Now you may notice that I didn't mention boots, and that's because Riot literally reworked everything about them, but you can probably tell that the only boots that are gonna be viable on ASol are Sorcerer's Boots. One more thing is, if you go for Stasis, get it after Infinity Orb, because it's too big of a power spike to delay it by 1000 gold. Okay, let's talk about a few specific items now. I'll start with Realize Crystal Scepter. I hate this item. First of all, it gives you bare minimum AP of what the magic item can give you. Nice bit of HP, but with Rod of Ages in your build, I would say that that's an overkill. And a passive that works properly on one ability out of your entire kit. Not only that, but the fact that you have to be at a specific distance from the enemy to apply slow makes it extremely hard to get value from this item, considering that melee champions can just gap close with one of their dash or blink abilities. You can of course stun them or ult them away, but you can also do this without the scepter. Anyway, it would all make perfect sense if you could keep ranged enemies at a safe distance, because a good half of them doesn't have any gap closers, but the fact that hitting them with your stars puts you inside of their range of danger is just hilarious at that point. Here's the list of champions who doesn't give a damn about your slow from the second ability. Hopefully now you realize just how bad this item is. Wow, that was something. Anyway, one other item that I sometimes see on ASol is Deadman's Plate, and I get why. It gives you a lot of movement speed, but no damage and pretty mediocre defense, so I would say this item is meh. Now that's when it gets interesting. There's an item called Horizon Focus, and sometimes people are taking it instead of their Rod of Ages. It's basically better early game, worse late game, nothing too complicated. The reason this item was pretty situational is the fact that it gives you no mana, so you would have to sacrifice something in the Inspiration Runes and go for Mana Flow Band. Now with the addition of Sorcerer's Boots, mana will no longer be an issue, so we might see some new builds with Horizon Focus as a core item. Because of that, I'm gonna fully explain its passive, because if you tried this item before, you maybe noticed that sometimes it procs on your second ability, sometimes it doesn't. So why does it happen, how the item is coded, everything will be explained. Okay, so abilities that hit enemies from a distance of 500 units are gonna mark them with Horizon's passive. You can see it right here, it applies a stack on this dummy, and if I get closer, it doesn't. But sometimes it stops applying stacks in the middle of casting your second ability, sometimes it applies stacks but not immediately. What even is happening? And what's happening is the following. In the moment of casting your second ability, the game remembers your position on the map and creates a safe zone around it, with the radius being 500 units. Enemies that are inside of this safe zone will not be affected by Horizon's passive, but they can leave it, and the moment they do, your second ability will apply stacks on them. They can also walk back into the safe zone to not be affected by Horizon's passive, and of course when you retract your stars and press second ability again, everything repeats and the safe zone is now here, now it's here, you got the point. That honestly took me embarrassingly long to figure out, but now we know how it works, and if you're gonna play with Horizon focus, just remember, it's better to chase the enemy away from the safe zone than to stay in the same place and just be there. And that's it about the items. Took a while to explain everything, but now we can go to runes. And I mean, Riot just reworked everything, so have fun figuring that out. I'm just gonna show what I was playing with. Weakness was very underrated, by the way. It's a shame they got rid of it. It was literally better than Gathering Storm, and the only games I was not going for weakness were the ones where my teammate could apply it easily, or if I needed Giant Slayer. Now for the summoner spells, Ignite Flash, again, pretty basic. The only thing I can consider is switching Ignite for Exhaust, but your damage will drop by too much, I would say. I also tried swapping Flash for Ghost, and I mean, it even worked sometimes, but that was in Masters, so I was not playing with like the best players ever. Alright, abilities. Now you probably can read, so I'm not gonna go through everything here. First of all, you max your second ability first, because you really want to get to this 2 seconds cooldown, then first ability, then the third one. Of course, upgrade your ultimate whenever you can. Now, first ability, it expands, you know that, but something you might not know is the fact that with enough movement speed, you can maintain your star without using your third ability. That applies to everything, move speed from base, ghost, even by retracting your stars you can get enough movement speed to not lose your first ability, which is sometimes very useful. For example, you never have to use your flight to get a star from base to the mid lane, you can just go there with the movement speed that you got from Fountain, and when it ends, at around this point, you can just go further with your second ability. Now let's talk flash combos, flash combo. ASol only has one, which is Ult Flash. Cool fast combo, kind of unpredictable, and the enemy is airborne for just enough time for you to stun them. You can also flash ult, it's slower, more predictable, but harder to miss. You can also flash into first ability, but I wouldn't call it a combo. If that's a combo, then flash basic attack is a combo as well. Like what? Oh, by the way, you never ever auto-aim your ultimate. Unless you have a portrait lock on your target, you will always find some random-ass enemy inside the range of your ultimate, and it's literally that big. Needless to say that you probably don't want to shoot some low HP tank who is like half the screen away from you. Okay, so we finally got to gameplay. First of all, who do you ban? For me, it's Kassadin. Always Kassadin. Jace is a close second, but this purple motherfucker is just too scary for me. He will outscale your entire team and you can't do anything about it. You're not a lane bully like Akshan, for example. So the game just started, you are going to the mid lane, as always. Your laning is definitely not your strongest side, so try not to lose too much HP level 1. Just focus on last hitting minions and maybe getting mid priority if you are laning against weaker champs. Champions like Akshan, Lucian and Corki will out-damage you just by standing still and shooting, so if the player is good, he will not give you a chance to get priority. It's fine, just chill. First 5 minutes is not the time for you to make plays. A very obvious trap I see people get into is thinking that you have your third ability, so you have to use it immediately, set up kills in side lanes, no matter the cost, otherwise you're not fully utilizing the champion. But no, in most cases you will lose a good portion of your wave and probably a third plate. It's sometimes worth it, sometimes doesn't. Now the fight over Scuttle Crab or some random invade in the jungle is where you want to participate. That is if you maintain your priority, of course. So the first objective just spawned. What do you want? Rift Herald or Drake? Well, first of all, you're not a snowballing champion. Your powers come near mid to late game, so you don't really care what objective your team gets. Try to set up a trade, ping your jungler away from the objective that the enemy is doing, unless they have a very weak early game and you have like a Lee Sin. But again, most of the time you are the weak side, so trade the objectives, shake hands with the enemy, you're gonna be fine, you're scaling. Now second Drake is where things start to get interesting. First of all, you really want to have your flight off cooldown. I would even argue that it's gonna be more important than your ultimate, because it guarantees your team priority over the Drake. Even if the enemy team starts it, you can always fly there with a huge star. At that point you probably already have an Infinity Orb, if you didn't die too much, and you can bring some nice damage to the table, so the second Drake should always be yours. We're approaching late game now. Rabadon's is your next major power spike. After you get it, you can start using your flash combo aggressively. It will one-shot squishes, or at least bring them to low HP, because you still cannot break through things like shield bow, for example. You can also start using your flight randomly. People are trying to invade your jungler? Fly there. Someone is overextended in the top lane and you have a Camille nearby? Fly there, that's a free kill. Now, how do you approach teamfights late game? Well, if it's a teamfight for an objective, then it's simple. Wait for it to get low enough so that the enemy cannot leave it, and fly there with your star. You are the initiator in that case. Now, it's a completely different story if you're not fighting for an objective. In case of some random ARM teamfight, you don't want to initiate it, you want to follow up your team or turn around a teamfight that is already going. You want to be a wild card that your team is gonna play when the enemies will not expect it. And that's it! From that point onwards, you will just get stronger and stronger, get Elder, get Baron, and the game. Just make sure that you're not gonna get caught stupidly, because the enemy is gonna see you before you're gonna see them. Just a reminder, this video is not a correct way to play ASol, I never said that. Maybe there are better ways to utilize this champion, maybe some items are not as bad as I think. I just wanted to explain my philosophy of this champion and how I see his role in the Rift. Overall, ASol is a really fun champion to play, even though I would say that he's not in the best spot right now. He hasn't received any changes for how many patches now? And no, I don't think it's because he is extremely balanced. I think Riot is just not spending any resources on him, because the next update he's gonna get is the PC rework. Can we actually talk about it for a second? I've seen this rework and isn't it just straight up bad? Okay, like, I get how the old ASol maybe felt clunky with how he had to move, right? But that was on PC. I feel like ASol in Wild Rift feels just fine, like he was meant to be on mobile. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think the only rework that he actually needs is being able to hide his stars when out of combat. I feel like it would be enough for him to shine, but anyway, that's just an opinion of one person. It's not gonna mean too much, I guess. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next video or live stream here on YouTube, and until then, just bye!